The dog and I are here on the chaotic shore of the Derwent. They're building the new Bridgewater Bridge right now, and that's why we can't get any closer. We can't get any closer to that building just there, that two-storey Gothic revival sandstone masterpiece. This part of town, right on the end or the beginning of Hobart, depending on how you want to look at it, has a certain psychogeographic power to it. You can feel it when you enter Hobart. Everything feels sort of incorrect for some reason. You can't quite put your finger on it. That building back there is called the Black Snake Inn. This whole area is called Granton now, but it used to be called Black Snake. That was the name of the whole place. But they wanted to get rid of that name for a reason, because it had negative connotations. The Black Snake land grant was issued in 1813, halfway between Hobart town proper and New Norfolk. There was not actually a road to New Norfolk then. The only way to get there was by boat, the same mode that was used to cross the Derwent if you were to go up to Launceston. Gould's Lagoon was designed as a wildlife sanctuary in 1938 at the request of then landowner Arthur Gould. Today about 100 different breeds of bird have been observed here. The place was once known as Black Snake Swamp, a place to be avoided, a place of danger filled with brackish water traps, the kind that might remove the horse from underneath your saddle. Its shores have since been adjusted with pipes and concrete. A bitumen road runs through the middle of it, and a now defunct railway course divides and protects it from the river. This building that the dog and I are playing around in front of is the remains of the Granton train station. If the name hadn't been changed, it could have been called Black Snake Station, which is a cool missed opportunity. The passenger trains stopped coming through here decades and decades ago, and one of the last of them to come through was reused, the locomotive that used to pull the passengers along. It was put on the back of a truck with a crane that was craned off, and it was used inside a playground just up that way, a bit further up the river. Kids enjoyed playing on it, everybody liked looking at it, but at some point in time it was deemed a bit too dangerous for kids to enjoy, so it was taken away and it's no longer there. Many more men could drink than read. The literacy rates in Van Diemen's Land were super low. The proprietors of the inn would have likely taken advantage of this already existing name, adapting it to their sign. A drawn black snake swinging from the signpost. Over the centuries, the Black Snake has been several structures. The extant one was erected in the middle of the 1800s. Visited by all sorts and raided by bushrangers. It's been an orchard and a roadhouse and a private residence. The veranda, like other parts of it, have fallen off. Today it barely survives. A protected ruin, a totem in the timeline, a stone talisman powerful enough to force a spaghetti of intersections to be built around it. The dog and I are playing on this stretch of concrete. It looks a bit like maybe it was a cricket pitch or something like that. It wasn't. There's 2 train tracks here, and that's where the engine was held. When they took it away, that's all that was left, but they did make a replacement of sorts. The dog's acting as foreman right now. We're not just on the side of a cliff, we're on the side of a former workplace. Now this cliff face isn't natural, it was man-made by the labour of enforced convict servitude. They used picks and they used shovels, and they dug all the way from the top all the way down here so that they'd fill in the Derwent and make what's become the Bridgewater Causeway. The actual Derwent out there is pretty shallow, pretty much all the way, but until you get to the central navigation span where it's properly deep, that's why the lift is where it is. The weather on days was like it is now, really hot. They didn't have things like sunglasses or American baseball caps. They didn't even have very good clothes, and it was of course cold a lot of the time. They didn't have good footwear, so they would have experienced a lot of injuries. Some of the injuries probably killed them. But we don't know, it's not really recorded very well. If they didn't work hard enough, they would have found themselves in a building over there.
The old watch house was purportedly built in 1838 by convicts. Constructed in the colonial Georgian style, the shelter held soldiers in charge of convicts who were working on the causeway. Single-storey sandstone, the original doors and windows have been replaced. The corrugated iron-hipped roof is a newer addition. 2-foot thick walls are mortared by lime and mud. Behind the building was a stockade where the convicts could be chained up at night. If a convict was to not work appropriately, they could be held in solitary confinement in the dark and the damp for days on end.
So this is the back side, the backyard of the watch house. And it was built and used when the causeway was built. Today it's, you know, you've got this juxtaposition, you've got the cranes that are building the new Bridgewater Bridge, and if you look just over there you can see part of it sticking up on the horizon. You have to wonder what the poor people who were forced to work here would make of all of this. Everything's improved now. Things were worse in the past, but still, it's you might find yourself inclined to just spare a moment and just ponder the guys that worked here and did all this effort and all this misery that they experienced so that things are kind of like how they are now. The colonial period was nasty. It was horrible for almost everybody. The Aboriginal people that were here before the English showed up, and it was very horrible also for all the convicts. Even the free settlers that came out here, some of them had a tough time. The past is complicated, but it's also right in front of us if we just look. This building, anyone can come up and have a look at it, but I don't think many people do. They enter Hobart or exit Hobart, and a lot of people don't know what it is. To some people, it is what it was most recently, a service station. But that's all in the past, and we have to look forward.